Hi everyone, Ian Dainty here, and I help B2B people, including business owners, marketers, salespeople, and sole consultants, understand the B2B marketplace better, so they can close more sales, develop better relationships with your prospects and clients. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had these challenges and difficulties with your clients and prospects? You call on someone and you run into a myriad of excuses. There's no budget. They like the way things are going now. The status quo is good. Your prices are too high. We all run into that. You run into gatekeepers all the time. They don't have time to meet. There's too many decision makers involved. You don't know who to call. Finally, when you do meet somebody and they move to a different company. You have difficulty differentiating your products and services, etc., etc. So there's a myriad of different excuses and reasons and everything you have trouble getting into people. And then when you finally do get to meet them, you have trouble getting back in touch with them. They don't return your phone calls. You can't get past the executive assistant, another gatekeeper, or they keep telling you they just haven't made a decision yet. Man, oh man, I ran into this all the time. And the funny thing is, I had some really great sales training. I started my business career at IBM, and they gave us great training. But it was more training for marketing and when you already had an account than it was for getting in the door. And when you said you were calling from IBM, as you can imagine, people listened. And you had no trouble getting in to see them, especially since they knew you or they knew your manager or somebody at IBM too. And of course the IBM name got you. So when I started out on my own, and had Ian Dainty Consulting, it really wasn't the name of my business, but let's say that's what it was, and people didn't know me, I was a new client, and especially didn't know me particularly, it was a whole new different ballgame. And I had to figure out how I would get into meet these people. So what did I do? Well, way back then, the only way that we had to meet people was the telephone. Well, there are actually three ways, I'll talk about them in a sec. So there I was, dialing for dollars, or more like it, dialing and getting calluses on my finger. And keep in mind now that this was originally in the time of touch-tone phones, and in actual fact, we used to have some rotary phones. People still had those back in the 70s. Well, some people would see you if you talked to them fast enough and were able to put in the right benefit or whatever. And then if you gave some lame excuse, somehow you would get in. And of course, there are only three ways to get in to meet people, as I mentioned. One was a telephone. The other was by what people call snail mail now. And the other one was knocking on doors. Hi there, want to see me today? I hated cold calling. I hated it, and I'm sure you do too. I still do today. So I thought there has to be a better way, but I had to figure out what that way was. And there was no internet back then where you could type something into Google and get in 1,000 ways to do something, which by the way, of course, has its own challenges. So I decided the best way to find out was to talk to some successful salespeople and managers and executives. I did get some great feedback, unbelievable feedback, but back then, most of them were brought up doing cold calling. Remember, there are only three ways to contact people: the phone, mail, and knocking on doors. Now this really helped these interviews, and I started out sending letters, which helped me, and then I followed up with a phone call. And by the way, this method still works today, where you send a letter and follow up with a phone call. You now have a warm call instead of a cold call, and you've introduced yourself with a letter. So it does work better. It still works, and because people are getting inundated with emails and social media, which I'm not going to really talk about today, but as you know, that's true. Now, I'm not going to get into all the different methods I've learned since then, but suffice it for me to say that sending out letters and having people respond to them to get a white paper, a guide, or a report is a much better way to approach marketing. But I will save that approach for another day, so today I want to talk about something different. And after you get an appointment, here comes the real challenge. Through social media or through the letters or whatever, you get in to see this person. How was I going to get these people to believe I could do a better job than my competitors, which at that time included IBM and many other large consulting firms, as I was selling consulting services. At my own company, that's what we did. And I'm not getting in front of a lot of people, but not getting as much business as I felt I should be getting. What was I doing wrong? I couldn't figure it out. So it was back to the drawing board and more research and interviewing. I got fed up putting out proposals, spending days writing them, and then the prospect never called back or stopped taking my calls finally and told me that someone else got the business. How many times have you run into that? I ran into it too often. As an aside right here, though, I'd like to mention one thing. Everyone of every age and experience should interview successful people and how they became successful. Now, I'm into my 60s now, and I learn an awful lot from people half my age. So don't be too proud or too silly or stupid or whatever to ask people of all ages how they became successful. And in fact, learn from people who didn't quite become successful too, because sometimes you learn more when you fail than when you do get successful. Everybody who is successful, though, has failed at some time. And read about successful people too. Anyway, back to the topic on hand. After all of these interviews and research and a lot of introspection, I finally came up with a methods for interviewing prospects that gave me the best way to qualify prospects about whether they would be buying or not, and sooner rather than later. And since I'm a sales and marketing coach, I applied these methods to my latest coaching client and got amazing results with them. I just finished a contract with a client over a couple of years, and just amazing results. When I started working with this client, they were getting very poor results from what they were doing, which was a little sales and marketing and some pay-per-click and trying to use a call center. And we're getting very, poor results. Now keep in mind also that they were in a very small niche in the marketplace they were in, which made it even more difficult to get clients. So after a few weeks of trial and error and putting together a more precise pay-per-click campaign, which I do know very well, they finally started receiving some good leads. Now this was after working, as I mentioned, with a telemarketing firm for about 6 months with no results at all, not just a few. They didn't get any appointments at all. And with very bright but unseasoned sales reps that I was working with, I was able to triple their client base within 18 months. Now maybe say 18 months is a long time, but this is B2B, remember, and it does take some time. And I tripled their client base, and in fact they got even bigger than that as we moved on. Excuse me. Now as I mentioned, many of these old world methods don't work today as well as they used to, or some of them don't even work at all. Cold calling can work in B2C and B2B if you're working and getting right through to the business owner. But if you're not getting through to the business owner, it's very difficult. But with companies over $2 million in sales, it's very difficult to get through with cold calling. So I don't recommend it. But by using pay-per-click and some social media, we were able to attract about 40 to 50 qualified leads per month. Now that's over 500 qualified leads a year. Do you think you might be able to get some more business if you had over 500 qualified leads a year? I think so, and I think you do too. However, the real key in converting these leads is the methodology I developed called the game plan. I was going to write it down, but I'll just go over it here. Now, the game plan is an acronym. It's spelled GAIM, and it stands for goals, afflictions, which are issues or problems, that's difficulties in achieving those goals, impact, what impact does it have on it, and I'm going to talk about that a bit, and M is for meaning how does your product, what meaning does your product or service have on them. This methodology will allow you to find out if prospects are real buyers or not. It teaches you to find out how emotionally involved your prospect is in finding a solution to their problem and to achieving their goals. If he is not emotionally involved, if your prospect is not emotionally involved, at least a little bit, then you'll probably not get a sale. So at least not within the next couple of weeks or probably even within the next few months. So how does this methodology work and why does it work? The first thing you must keep in mind is that people buy or don't buy for emotional reasons. They'll justify it with logical reasons, but they buy for emotional reasons. So you can't just sell to their logical reasons. Even in a B2B sale, they still buy for emotional reasons. You must unearth these personal or emotional reasons why people are buying. And again, this is especially true in B2B sales. I can give you a bunch of examples, I just won't go through them for a minute. Very few business people, including sales and marketing people, understand this. Very true. Let me repeat it. In B2B sales, people buy for emotional reasons and personal reasons. How will it affect me? The other factor is that most people start off by asking, what are your issues? And I want to say that I don't believe this is the right approach. You need to start off by asking, what their goals are. Remember the goal, the game plan is goals, afflictions, and problems, impact, and meaning. This puts the whole sales process into context. Once you know what they want to achieve in the next few months or the next year, then you can find out what is stopping them from achieving that, their afflictions, the issues and problems that they're running into. Then comes the, as I call the coup d'etat, or the creme de la creme. Ask them, after you got their goals, after you've got the issues and afflictions that they got, ask them what impact it will have on them if they don't achieve these goals and if they do achieve these goals. And I'm going to go through that in my coaching program that I'm going to announce in a minute. And then ask them what impact that would have. Okay, what is the impact this will have? Now this is where you really find out if they want to move forward or not. This will give you a definitive answer about how serious they are about solving their issues and moving forward and achieving their goals. And then, and only then, after you've gone through the goals, the afflictions, the impact, then you go through, then you can ask them, then you can show them what your meaning is, okay? You can talk to them then about your products and services by showing them how that will affect their outcome and what it then will mean to them. Can you see how powerful this is? It really is powerful, and it works. And what it'll do is it'll stop you from chasing leads that aren't going to come to fruition in the next 2 or 3 or 6 months. And that also gives you ammunition when you go through your proposal. Now, the most common mistake business people, sales and marketing people, consultants make is not understanding that business people buy for emotional reasons. I can't stress this enough. It can be difficult asking these questions and asking the impact it's going to have on a particular person. So you really can only do this in a one-on-one situation. It's very difficult to do in a group situation. What impact will this have on you? And he says, well, I hope to get a raise, or I hope to become boss, or my boss will look at me better. So it's really done better in a one-on-one situation. But again, this is very powerful. It can increase your closing rates dramatically, stop you from chasing bad leads, and people leading you on. So, what do you do next? Well, you need to sign up for my webinar. And you'll notice down below this video, boom, boom, right there, there's a link to a webinar that I'm holding on Tuesday, May 17th at noon Eastern Daylight Time. And I want you to go down there now and click on that link and sign up for my webinar. It's all free, and I'm going to go into the game plan in a lot more detail and how it can affect you and how you can use it. And then from there we're going to talk about other things you can do. But so please go down below, sign up for the game plan, the webinar on the game plan, and I look forward to speaking with you then on Tuesday, May 17th. Bye for now.